Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Now that Joe Biden is out of the picture, it appears delegates to the Democrat convention could begin voting on the party's presidential and vice presidential nominee as early as next week under a draft plan that was released yesterday by the Democrat National Committee. As Democrats appear to be coming around and supporting Vice President Kamala Harris, and her nomination seems more secure, the serious discussion of the number 2 position on the ballot is reaching new heights of speculation. Sparks flew yesterday as South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace interrogated Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle, asking a series of yes-no questions that the director could not or would not answer.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Joe Biden called into the campaign headquarters of Vice President Kamala Harris on Monday and addressed his sudden decision to drop out of the presidential race. This was a meeting between Harris and the Biden campaign committee, of which up until now she hasn't been that too involved with. He said, "I know yesterday's news is surprising and it's hard for you to hear, but it was the right thing to do," he told his campaign staffers, or maybe I should say former campaign staffers. He said, "I know it's hard because you have poured your heart and soul into me to help us win this thing, help me get this nomination, help me win the nomination, and then go on to win the presidency again," he said. Biden said he believes he made the right decision, saying he was honored and humbled. The name has changed at the top of the ticket, but the mission hasn't changed at all, he told the group. Again, this was via a phone call yesterday. He said he was campaigning for Harris and fully engaged in an effort to prevent a second term of Donald Trump. He said, "We're still fighting in this fight together. I'm not going anywhere, and I want you to know that that you've had my back, and I promise you I will always have your back." Democrats supporting Kamala Harris are anxious to finalize the nominating process as quickly as possible. According to a Politico report, delegates to the convention could begin voting on the party's presidential and vice presidential nominees as early as next week. The proposal is scheduled to be taken up on Wednesday by members of the DNC's Convention Rules Committee. Such a timeline, if it were to be implemented, could result in Kamala Harris, President Joe Biden's endorsed successor, selecting her running mate by the middle of next week. Harris, of course, who announced her own bid just 24 hours ago, has already effectively cleared the field of would-be challengers. She's drawn a number of endorsements, as a lot of people were hesitant initially to endorse her, including Joe Biden. Keep in mind, Joe Biden did not offer his support immediately upon announcing that he was suspending his campaign. It took some thought and some time before he came back, and I'm sure a lot of pressure before he came back and ultimately endorsed Kamala. That led to a number of other endorsements yesterday. She had former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and every Democrat governor in the country, many of whom have their own national ambitions and have been mentioned as potential candidates. They're now falling behind her, ready to support her. In a call with reporters on Monday night, the DNC previewed their nomination rules, which they pledged would represent a transparent, swift, and orderly process. This according to the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, from South Carolina. The DNC committed to a virtual nomination process back in May. They had expected to potentially do this even earlier, defending against any Republican-backed legal challenges that might keep them off the ballot, particularly in Ohio. They seemed to get through those issues before they realized they had another issue on their hand with Joe Biden. And how do you get his name off now and Kamala Harris's name on? Harrison said, "We will deliver a presidential nominee by August the 7th of this year." The DNC laid out 3 qualifications to be considered for the nomination. A candidate must file a formal declaration of candidacy with the DNC, meet party and legal qualifications to be president, and secure at least 300 delegate signatures, no more than 50 of whom come from one state delegation. The DNC said that it would provide a delegate directory to those candidates who are interested in running for the nomination. The nominating process, depending on how many candidates qualify, will be completed between August 1st and August 7th, according to a news release that the DNC released. Minion Moore, the chair of the next month's convention in Chicago, said, "While this situation is unprecedented, the process we prepared to undertake is not." On selecting a vice presidential nominee, one DNC official left the door open to the presidential nominee's discretion when pressed by reporters. The official said the rules would allow for a vice presidential nominee on that time frame with a nomination by August 7th, but that is ultimately up to the presidential nominee, the person said. Basically, they're saying, hey, whoever we nominate, and I'm assuming they're thinking it's going to be Kamala, we'll just leave it up to him or her. Most likely her. 24 hours ago, I would have said she might not have this locked up. After yesterday, I'm going to say Kamala Harris is going to be the Democrat nominee. I think it's going to be her now. Too bad. I had hoped for a floor fight in Chicago. Don't think that's going to happen. Mike Donnellan, a senior advisor to President Joe Biden who left the White House to help lead the president's campaign, is expected to remain working for the campaign, according to those who were consulted yesterday by the media after Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's talk with the campaign staffers. Not quite sure what his involvement will be, but it appears that the vice president wants to keep things pretty much the same. She'll probably add some of her own people just to watch over their shoulder. A person who knows the details said that Donnellan will not be the central figure in the campaign anymore, suggesting that Kamala will have her own person, but that he will play a vital role. During a visit to her campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware, and again, this was Joe Biden's campaign headquarters just 2 days ago, the vice president said that she asked Jen O'Malley Dillon to run her campaign. Harris also said that Julie Chavez Rodriguez would stay on the campaign, adding that she had full faith in the team. There'd been some initial uncertainty about whether Harris would shake up the campaign staff and install some of her own close aides. This is all happening quickly, and I would imagine that she doesn't want to ruffle any more feathers than she has to, because she can't afford to do that right now. We also learned that exactly a month ago, just before Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance, that a Donald Trump campaign staffer distributed a document to top Trump campaign aides. The subject line was nominating an alternative Democrat presidential candidate. Of course, the Trump campaign was looking to be ready if this scenario unfolded, which it did. The 11-page memo was labeled a confidential draft. It was obtained by Politico. It outlined the ways in which another candidate besides Joe Biden could become the nominee. The scenarios presented included Biden stepping aside, an insider rebellion, or an act of God. The memo goes on to say something happens and Joe Biden and the Democrat National Committee have no choice but to nominate a replacement at the convention or special meeting of the DNC. The mere existence of the memo, which has not been previously reported, underscores how the Trump campaign has for months been eyeing the prospect of facing someone other than Joe Biden. I guess they've been listening to me because, again, I don't like to say I told you so, but I've been saying this for months, that Joe Biden's name would not be on that ballot in November. I just didn't see it happening. The document delved deeply into Democrat Party rules, describing, for instance, how delegates could launch an uprising at the convention and deprive Joe Biden of the nomination. It talked about a scenario in which delegates who were critical of the president's handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict could vote against Biden based on their conscience. At the same time, Republicans were tracking news coverage, a separate document which was distributed May 27th, entitled Press Stories, Biden Stepping Aside Convention Escape Hatch, compiled stories that raised the prospect of an alternative candidate to Joe Biden becoming the nominee. It also highlighted the names of other potential candidates who were mentioned, including, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris. The Trump campaign also prepared an assault on non-Biden candidates. After the debate, it began preparing opposition on several potential Democrat rivals, again, including Kamala Harris. Other organizations within the broader Trump political operation were also preparing, we're told, based on insiders' information. Bottom line is, this is no surprise to the Trump campaign. Shouldn't be a surprise to us. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Firmin Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. I was talking to a good friend the other day, and he mentioned that he has started taking the weight loss injection drug that was initially made to treat type 2 diabetes. He said he's losing weight, but the day after he takes the injection, he is so sick he can't leave the house. That got me thinking. Most of us go on a weight loss journey so that we can feel better and get healthy. Folks, losing weight should not make you sick. I can tell you firsthand, 4 years ago when I started PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, I was never hungry or agitated. I never felt sick. In fact, I felt great the very first week. The PhD side effects are better sleep, more energy, smaller clothes, and a general sense of well-being. Getting healthy should not make you sick, and it shouldn't make you dependent on a drug either. Simply put, PhD is freedom. You will not be dependent on a drug because there are no drugs. You'll learn to eat for your body, and you won't gain the weight back. They have a lifetime maintenance program, and PhD teaches you to trust yourself and your knowledge. Call them today, 864-252-4925. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. That's 864-252-4925. We spent the last few months in speculation on who Donald Trump would choose as his vice president. Now we're doing the same thing with the Democrats since things have changed on their side of the aisle. Assuming Vice President Kamala Harris gets the nomination, who will be her running mate? MSNBC host Katie Tur suggested that Vice President Kamala Harris and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer could run together as an all-female ticket to push back against the Trump-Vance all-male ticket. Tur said on air on MSNBC, speaking to host Joe Scarborough, "I'm curious what you think of a full female ticket, a Harris-Whitmer ticket." Harris, of course, is working to consolidate Democrat Party support. She made a lot of progress yesterday, I'm sorry to tell you, and has yet to announce a running mate. Hasn't even been in speculation yet on her part. A lot of others speculating, of course. Tur said, just go big on the Democrat side and push back specifically on all that energy that we got out of the RNC. Donald Trump yelling, fight, fight, fight. It's a very masculine ticket over there, she said. So what do you think about the first all-female ticket? It just honestly makes me sick to think about Kamala Harris becoming president. That's why I'm just so annoyed by the Republicans, people on our side, calling for Joe Biden to step down now, which would allow Kamala Harris to become president. Yes, for a short period of time, I hope, but still, I don't want her to ever sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office. So what do you think about this Whitmer, Governor Whitmer, joining the ticket? Well, I can tell you what's not going to happen. And that's not going to happen because soon after this was speculated, soon after this trial balloon was launched, Governor Whitmer made it very clear that she would not accept the vice president's job if offered. She said, quote, "I'm not leaving Michigan." She told a local news outlet Monday that she would not accept an offer to join the 2024 Democrat ticket if it were offered. A local news reporter with WLNS asked Whitmer if she were prepared to take the job of vice presidency alongside Vice President Kamala Harris, who apparently is going to be their nominee. Whitmer replied, "No, I'm not planning to go anywhere. I'm not leaving Michigan. I'm proud to be the governor of Michigan. I've been consistent. I know everyone is always suspicious. I'm not going anywhere." When pressed why it took so long for Whitmer to endorse Harris, who announced that she would run for president after Joe Biden dropped out of the race on Sunday, Whitmer said that she wanted a minute to let the dust settle. She said, "I think everyone was surprised by the news yesterday, even though there's a lot of conversations about it, and that means co-chairs included. So I wanted a minute to check in with all my colleagues and let the dust settle, and proud to be supporting the vice president for president," she said. Also, yesterday, Kamala Harris picked up the support of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, because Pelosi was one of the ones, too, who was very quiet after Joe Biden had announced that he would be stepping aside. We didn't hear from any of the senior leadership of the Democrat House members for quite some time. In a statement, Pelosi said, "Today is with immense pride and limitless optimism for our country's future that I endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for President of the United States. My enthusiastic support for Kamala Harris for President is official, personal, and political." I don't believe a word of it. I do not believe that Nancy Pelosi supports Kamala Harris enthusiastically. I don't believe that she has limitless optimism for our country's future under a President Kamala Harris. What I do believe is Nancy Pelosi was forced to do this and felt like there was no other alternative. I think a lot of the people who added their name on the list of supporters of Kamala Harris yesterday did so under duress, or basically just realized we don't have many options here. It's either get behind Kamala or tear the party apart at a brokered convention, and then we potentially hurt even further the down ballot races, a lot of those House races that the Democrats are hoping to maintain, and some they hope to pick up. Pelosi went on to say, "Officially, I've seen Kamala Harris's strength and courage as a champion for working families, notably fighting for a woman's right to choose. Personally, I've known Kamala Harris for decades as rooted in strong values, faith, and a commitment to public service. Politically, make no mistake, Kamala Harris as a woman in politics is brilliantly astute, and I have all full confidence that she will lead us to victory in November." Again, I do not believe that Nancy Pelosi believes that Kamala Harris is brilliantly astute. No way. A recent poll that was conducted in 2 swing states revealed that Harris could win the election if Governor Josh Shapiro were her running mate. In Pennsylvania, 47% of voters said they would vote for Harris if she ran alongside Shapiro. Meanwhile, Trump and Vance received 46% of the votes, basically within the margin of error. However, only 42% backed a Harris-Shapiro ticket in Michigan compared to 47% for Trump-Vance. Shapiro has yet to comment on any speculation, praising President Biden on social media following his announcement. In a statement, he said, "President Biden is a patriot who has served our country honorably in the Senate as vice president and is one of the most consequential presidents in modern history. President Biden has gotten an incredible amount done to move our country forward, defend our democracy, and protect real freedom. I am proud to work side by side, and I'm grateful for his leadership and his unwavering commitment to delivering for Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth that raised him." Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Firmin Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Representative Nancy Mace started her questioning yesterday asking Kimberly Cheatle if she would like to resign on the spot. Of course, Ms. Cheatle under fire as the director of the Secret Service after the attempt on President Donald Trump's life just over a week ago. It was a massive failure on behalf of the Secret Service to allow this to happen. She basically admitted that yesterday. So I will give her credit for that. But boy, was her performance dismal. Representative Mace told her up front that she had a series of simple yes-no questions to ask. Nancy Mace started her questioning yesterday by asking Ms. Cheatle if she would like to resign on the spot, to which Ms. Cheatle declined the invitation, and then Ms. Mace started her series of rapid-fire questions, asking if the almost successful assassination of Donald Trump was a colossal failure of the Secret Service. Here's the exchange.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheatle, the American people are watching, and they're wondering if there are any questions you can answer honestly today. So, Director Cheatle, I have a series of questions, very specific questions. I want very specific answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible...
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
So there you have it. The director of the Secret Service admitting publicly what you and I already know is that this was a colossal mistake, that the Secret Service are responsible for Donald Trump almost losing his life just over a week ago. Again, I give her credit for answering that question and admitted it, because there's so many people at her level in the Biden administration, like Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, who would never answer that. They will step around the question. They'll deny their responsibility. So I will give Ms. Cheatle credit for admitting that she's a failure, admitting that her agency failed the former president in Butler, Pennsylvania. Representative Mace wasn't finished. She told Director Cheatle that her response that she had no idea how her opening statement for yesterday's House Oversight Committee hearing on the Trump rally shooting got leaked to media agencies, Mace calling it BS. And I cleaned that up considerably because she didn't say BS. In fact, she used that term a couple of times to the point that the chairman of the committee called her down, called like a decorum on her, basically saying we don't use that type of language in the United States Congress and in official proceedings. This fiery remark, and look, Nancy Mace is known for this kind of thing. She went to Congress from day one. Has not been a wallflower, for sure. So this remark came after Cheatle was directed by Mace to answer a series of yes/no questions on the Secret Service's response to the attempted assassination. Cheatle, a number of times, rather than just saying yes or no, would try to dodge the question or would try to add some commentary. Nancy Mace didn't want any part of that. Nancy Mace wanted either a yes or a no. she admitted that the tragedy could have been prevented. Here's additional testimony from Director Cheatle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheatle, the American people are watching, and they're wondering if there are any questions you can answer honestly today. So, Director Cheatle, I have a series of questions, very specific questions. I want very specific answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
And again, I got to give her credit for admitting it. Mace started mentioning news articles published between 5 and 7 a.m. Eastern time about 3 to 4 hours before she said the House Oversight Committee received Cheatle's statement. Mace then, as you heard, asked Cheatle if she had provided all audio and all video recordings that were in her or are in her possession to the committee. Cheatle saying, I'll have to go back. That's when Mace again said that's BS. Evidently, a number of media outlets yesterday received Ms. Cheatle's remarks, a written statement of her remarks prior to the committee. Committee members were not amused. Wow, again, I'm just surprised that she admitted her failure. I was leaning in the direction of believing that she probably had ignored the request and had not read the subpoena, at least though she did admit that she had read the subpoena. She evidently wasn't prepared or just realized or knew that she wasn't going to be cooperative anyway. As you heard, Ms. Cheatle didn't seem to be able to answer many of the questions or didn't want to answer many of the questions. This is the director, and it's been over a week now, and she still doesn't have a clue of what happened to Donald Trump that day, or she doesn't care. Now, again, I don't expect her to have all the answers, but for example, the simple question of how many agents did you have on duty that day? Don't you think that's something that she's already asked or should have asked? Don't you think she should know now how many of her agents were at this event? Because there's been a lot of talk about some of the Trump campaign workers being there shielding some of the spectators. Many of the photos that have been circulated with men lying on top of other people, shielding them, it's been assumed that it was Secret Service agents. We have now learned that's not always the case. That Trump has and which I've seen. I've been to many of these events. I'm actually headed to Charlotte tomorrow as President Trump will be at the Bojangles Coliseum. But Trump has a whole team. These folks have been with him for a long time. I saw a number of them who were at Pickens last summer. Some of the same guys that I saw and worked with in Pickens were in Wilmington when I traveled up there back in July. That was June, back in June. Representative Mace told the media yesterday outside the hearing room that Cheatle was testifying that she is not taking any of this seriously and said that it's almost like she's unafraid to get fired, which is the problem. And she's not. You know, the truth is she probably won't be fired. And she kind of knows that. Yeah, she may not be director of Secret Service again, but here's my prediction. Write this down. My prediction is that Ms. Cheatle will lose her job as director of Secret Service, but she'll remain a federal employee. She will not be unemployed. She will not be fired completely. She'll be reassigned, conveniently reassigned. Now, you and I, we'd be fired on the spot. We'd never work again for that agency. And by the way, Nancy Mace is not the only member of the committee asking for Cheatle's resignation. Representative Jared Moskowitz, he's a Democrat from Florida, is also calling on Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle to resign from her post, saying the attempted assassination of former President Trump at the rally was domestic terrorism and an attack on U.S., and basically that she had allowed it to happen. The lawmaker joined Neil Cavuto on Your World yesterday, where he gave his thoughts about the House Committee on Oversight's hearing in the attempted assassination. Moskowitz and a group of bipartisan lawmakers called on Cheatle to step down over this failed security detail and for not answering questions about the failed security detail. The lawmaker said that he asked Cheatle to commit to firing the people responsible when the investigation is complete, adding that she would not commit to doing this. So she understands that there's an investigation. She understands that there are going to be some people who will be held responsible, but she's not willing to say that they will lose their job. She's not willing to say that she will fire them. Representative Moskowitz went on saying Cheatle is not going to be the director of the Secret Service soon, though he does not know for sure if she'll be out of her post within a few days. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, also from Florida, accused Secret Service Director Cheatle of perjuring herself and of stonewalling members of the House Committee on Oversight by saying that she's more convinced now that the would-be Trump assassin was not working alone. A new little twist there. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Firmin Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. On the text line, Ray writes, do we live in interesting times, Joey? Of course we do, Ray. He says, 2 questions I have no answers for. 1, the Trump shooter was stopped by security with a rangefinder but no gun. How did he get the gun past security, and where was it till he climbed to the roof? 2, why are all the worry about Cackles replacing Joe as president till January? Nothing will change, that the country will still be run by Barry Obama as it has been for the past 3+ years. I don't want to have the footnote in history of the first female president go to such a joke. Oh, well, it'll all get corrected in November. Ray, I agree with you. I don't want her to be sitting at the Resolute desk either. I don't want for Kamala Harris to be able to say I was the first female black president, even if it's for a few months. She doesn't deserve that. She doesn't deserve that distinction of being the first female president. And I hope that our Republican leaders will recognize that and will back off on the calls of Joe Biden resigning. Texter says, amazing how all the Dems' evil plots are blowing up on them. Are you surprised that so many notable Dems are endorsing Kamala for president? They really can't be this dumb, but then again, yes, they are. Because they all rallied around her yesterday, didn't they? Those who on Sunday were a little hesitant, no hesitancy now. Somebody told them to get in line and to get behind Kamala Harris, and they did. Texter, how the H is he still in the White House? If he can't run for re-election, how can he run this country? They need to get him out. I want to see the hyena run. Well, there have been a number of presidents who have chosen not to run for a second term. and continued to serve. I don't have the list in front of me, but maybe that's a research project I'll put together for you. Paul writes, when you went to Milwaukee and didn't smuggle back any, Paul says you went to Milwaukee and didn't smuggle back any sweet corn, ? It should be in season. Just kidding around. Glad you're back safely, though it was a long trip. Yeah, I didn't even think about bringing back any corn, Paul. I did think about it. There seemed to be a lot of good seafood around there. Actually, there was just a lot of good food in general. Texter says Kamala was never supposed to be VP. Biden, when campaigning, promised to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court and forgot which position he said that he would do. Got on stage and blurted it out. I believe the black woman that came was the first who came to his mind. So you don't think she was even supposed to be vice president? It was one of his brain freezes, huh? Texter, don't want to hear any more about Trump being a threat to democracy. They completely canceled the primary voters. That they did. They basically said, hey, primary voters in the Democrat primary, you don't mean anything. We'll do what we want to do. Texter says, when your plan is to cheat, you don't have to be qualified. Texter, Harris fits her plan to destroy our country. Soros. Mike writes on the text line, I think that Trump made a huge mistake by debating Biden before the Democrat primary. That was their goal, to see if Joe could pass it. If it would have waited till after the debate, they could have kicked Joe out because, they could not have kicked Joe out because it had been too late, but it is what it is now. Well, I've said all along, too, somebody within Joe Biden's inner circle who was able to convince him to come out swinging and challenge Donald Trump to a debate, somebody within that inner circle knew what was going to happen. They wanted to see if he was up to it. Now, I get what you're saying here. Well, maybe Trump misstepped there because now he's going to have another opponent. I don't think Trump cares who they put up against him. And I certainly don't believe Trump minds running against Kamala Harris. Texter, Donald Trump and Republicans are being bullies, and as Americans, we generally don't like bullies, and we try to lift up the ones that are being victims of a bully. How we got a troll here, don't we? How do you think Donald Trump is being a bully? Follow up with that one. Let me hear the details. Texter says, one thing I'm afraid of is that we're going to focus too much on her personal flaws instead of her policies, and then the American people are going to feel, I got you, that she's the victim. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to hang the Biden administration's Bidenomics and the Build Back Better, as some describe it. I think we're going to hang those policies around her neck. Did you notice yesterday during her news conference that she kept talking about Joe's programs? Joe did this, Joe did that. You think she's already distancing herself from Joe Biden? That she's going to come back and say, well, I really didn't do that. Joe did that. Joe was responsible for Bidenomics. Joe was responsible for the Inflation Reduction Act. Faye writes on the text line, after watching Cheatle pass for a female version of Mayorkas, good point, she needs to repay the government for her 29 years of salary. This is a dangerous woman, especially when she's protecting Republicans. She knew answers to questions but had no intention of sharing. I kind of got that impression too. Again, the simple question that Nancy Mace asked her, how many agents were at the Trump event? She claimed she didn't know. That would be one of the first questions I would want answered as the director. As soon as I knew what had happened, I'd want to know how many people did we have there protecting him. She didn't seem to have a clue. Texter says they'll switch her out suddenly with Hillary at the DNC. Well, Hillary and Bill were some of the first ones to jump in there to support her. We'll see. Look, the DNC is going to be quite interesting in a few weeks. Get ready. Maybe we should have a watch party or something. Fred says, wow, Sunday morning the news and social media was swamped with attempted assassination reports, conspiracy theories, reports of lack of accountability for the law enforcement agencies involving in securing Donald Trump, etc. Sunday morning, Biden was adamant he was running for president. Sunday afternoon, Biden says he won't run. Monday morning, no one, all caps, is talking about the assassination attempt and how nothing is adding up regarding the evidence or lack of evidence supporting Crooks being the only shooter in the assassination attempt. You know, a lot of you have texted me or emailed me your thoughts that this young man did not do this on his own. Texter's taking me to task here, says, a DEI hire? Your racism is coming out, Joey. What a Christian. This is in reference to my comment yesterday that Kamala Harris is Joe Biden's DEI hire. I stand by my statement. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.